Welcome to Tiny Home Blueprints. Today, we're revealing the tiny home mistake that has cost countless owners thousands of dollars and how to avoid it. Let's dive in. Sarah paid $68,000 cash for her dream tiny home. 3 years later, life changed and she needed to sell it fast. The offer she got back? $31,000. She didn't lose money to a bad economy. She didn't lose money to a scam. She lost over half her investment because of one decision she made on day one. A decision almost every single tiny home buyer makes without even realizing it. And Sarah's not alone. Across the country, owners are discovering the same painful surprise at the exact moment they can least afford it. If you're researching tiny homes, already own one, or you're just tiny home curious, stick with me for the next several minutes, because this mistake is hiding in almost every tiny home listing, every builder pitch, and every glossy YouTube tour you've ever watched. And before you go anywhere, make sure you're subscribed, because this is part of our series, Tiny Home Secrets They Don't Tell, and the next episode breaks down exactly why tiny homes lose value faster than you think. These two videos work as a pair. Watch this one without that one, and you're only getting half the picture. This channel exists for one reason: to give you the real numbers nobody puts in the brochure. Not the dream. Not the Instagram aesthetic. Not the drone shot of the home at golden hour with string lights and a fire pit. The actual math. So let's get into the mistake that quietly costs tiny home owners thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, and why almost nobody sees it coming until it's too late. Here it is, plain and simple. Most tiny home buyers don't realize they're not buying a house. Legally, in the eyes of most states, if your tiny home sits on a trailer, it's not real estate. It's personal property, the exact same legal category as your car, your boat, or a jet ski. And property in that category doesn't appreciate. It depreciates, just like a vehicle rolling off the lot. Think about that for a second. You can pour your savings, your sweat, your custom cabinetry choices, your acclaimed barnwood accent wall, all of it, into a structure that the law treats the same way it treats a used pickup truck. That single classification, wheels versus foundation, determines almost everything that happens to your money for the next decade. It determines how you finance it. It determines how it's insured. It determines your property tax situation. It determines whether banks will even talk to you. And it determines what happens the day you finally try to sell. Let's start with financing, because this is where the bleeding usually begins, often before the home is even built. When a tiny home is classified as personal property, you typically can't get a conventional mortgage. Instead, lenders offer what's called a chattel loan, financing where the home itself is the collateral, the exact same structure used for car loans. Chattel loan rates commonly run between 7 and 12%, with repayment terms that rarely stretch past 20 years. Now compare that to a traditional mortgage, sitting in the 6 to 7% range over 30 years. That gap doesn't sound dramatic on paper, but run it across a $70,000 loan, and the difference in total interest paid can easily reach into the thousands, sometimes well beyond that, depending on your term and rate. Then there's the down payment problem. RV loans for RVA-certified mobile tiny homes typically require 10 to 20% down. That's $5,000 to $10,000 up front on a $50,000 build. Money you need to have sitting in a bank account before you've even chosen your countertops. Some lenders advertise no-down financing, which sounds like a relief if you're cash-strapped, but you pay for that convenience through a higher interest rate stretched across the entire life of the loan. It's not free money, it's deferred cost. And here's the trap that catches the most people: builder financing. It's the option that feels easiest because it's offered right at the point of sale, sitting right there on the same paperwork as your build contract. One signature and you're done. But builder financing often carries rates 2 to 4 percentage points higher than what you'd get by simply shopping around at a credit union or online lender. Convenient now, expensive for the next 15 to 20 years. Credit requirements pile on yet another layer. Some RV-style lenders want a 690 credit score just to qualify for standard terms, and that requirement can climb to 740 or higher if you're hoping for a lower down payment option. If your credit isn't there, you're often pushed toward personal loans instead, and those can carry interest rates anywhere from 6% all the way up to a staggering 36%, depending on your credit profile and the lender. Stack all of that together, and you start to see why so many tiny home owners feel financially squeezed despite buying something that was supposed to set them free. Now here's the number that should genuinely concern you. Tiny homes on wheels, because they're titled like RVs or trailers in many states, can lose roughly 25% of their purchase price in the very first year alone. After that initial drop, depreciation typically continues at around 10% annually for several years after. Let's run that math on Sarah's $68,000 home. Year one alone could wipe out close to $17,000 in value. Before she's even hosted her first guest, before the first holiday, before the new home smell even fades. By year 3, with continued annual losses stacking on top of that first year hit, a value in the low $30,000s isn't a worst-case scenario. It's the expected, mathematically predictable outcome. Let that sink in. This isn't bad luck. This isn't a soft market. This is simply how the asset class behaves by default. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I'm not planning to sell, so why does this matter to me? Stay with me, because this affects you even if you never list your home on the market. It affects your insurance payout if something ever goes wrong: a storm, a fire, an accident during transport. It affects your loan-to-value ratio, which determines whether you're building equity or just treading water. It affects whether you end up owing more than the home is actually worth if you ever need to refinance or relocate quickly. So before you click away thinking this doesn't apply to you, let's talk about why this happens, and more importantly, exactly how to protect yourself from it. Every single time a tiny home on wheels is towed, it takes on damage you can't always see with the naked eye. Road vibration stresses the trailer frame and chassis with every mile. Roof seals crack from repeated temperature swings during transport, especially crossing different climates. Tires and axles were down the same way they would on any towed vehicle. None of this looks dramatic in the moment. There's no single cracking sound, no obvious dent, but it's cumulative, and appraisers and buyers absolutely factor it in when it's time to put a number on your home. A tiny home that's been moved 5 times will appraise lower than an identical, same-age unit that stayed parked in one spot, even if both look spotless on a walkthrough. Insurance compounds the problem further. Most wheeled tiny homes are covered under what's called actual cash value coverage, which pays out the replacement cost minus depreciation, not what it would actually cost you to rebuild today. So as your home ages and its book value drops, your insurance payout shrinks right along with it, even while material and labor costs to replace it keep climbing in the real world. You end up underinsured relative to reality, without ever changing your policy. Replacement cost value policies do exist and would solve this problem, but they're harder to find for wheeled units, and they come with noticeably higher premiums when you do track one down. There's a second, quieter reason resale gets difficult, and it has nothing to do with depreciation math at all. It's demand. Tiny homes appeal mostly to singles, couples without children, retirees, remote workers, and people looking for short-term or transitional housing situations. Families, long-term buyers, and most traditional homeowners simply aren't shopping in this category at all. They're looking at 3- and 4-bedroom houses with yards and school districts. A smaller buyer pool means longer listing times sitting on the market, more negotiating leverage handed to the buyer instead of you, and ultimately lower final sale prices, regardless of how immaculately you maintain the place or how much custom work you put into it. You could have the nicest tiny home in your state, and you'd still be fishing in a much smaller pond than a traditional homeowner. Here's something that rarely gets mentioned until it's already a problem: zoning. Many cities and counties still classify tiny homes on wheels as temporary structures, which means placement can be far more complicated than buyers expect going in. Some areas welcome them on private land with minimal restriction. Others demand permits, minimum lot sizes, or specific utility connections before you're even legally allowed to park it. A buyer who finds the perfect tiny home at the perfect price can still walk away entirely if they can't confirm where they're legally allowed to put it. And that uncertainty alone tanks offers before negotiations even begin. If you're selling and you can't immediately answer, where can the next owner legally place this? You've just added weeks or months to your time on market and probably knocked thousands off your final number. Here's the part that actually matters most for your decision going forward. A tiny home permanently affixed to a foundation on land you own is treated completely differently by the system. It's classified as real property, the same legal category as a conventional house. That single shift changes your financing options to conventional mortgages or construction loans, makes insurance dramatically easier and cheaper to secure. It means the structure gets appraised against other small permanent homes instead of getting compared to a used RV on a classified site. Foundation-based tiny homes typically sell in the range of $45,000 to $125,000 or more, compared to roughly $35,000 to $80,000 for wheeled units. And critically, they hold that value far more predictably over time, instead of sliding down a depreciation curve every single year. The catch, and there's always a catch, is that foundation work adds roughly $5,000 to $8,000 upfront, and you need to actually own the land beneath it, which brings its own set of costs. Quarter-acre lots in desirable areas can run $10,000 to $30,000 or more, depending on your region. Utility infrastructure like water, electric, and sewer hookups can add another $10,000 to $25,000 on raw, undeveloped land. Building permits average around $1,380 nationally, though they run far higher in certain jurisdictions, and annual insurance typically lands somewhere between $500 and $2,000 a year, depending on coverage type and location. So yes, it's more money on the front end, sometimes significantly more. But it's the difference between owning an appreciating-ish asset and owning a slowly depreciating liability with a roof on it. Let's zoom out and look at this over a full decade, because that's the real picture most buyers never get shown before they sign anything. Total tiny home ownership costs over 10 years, including purchase price, land or lot rent, utility connections, insurance, property taxes where applicable, ongoing utilities, and maintenance, typically range anywhere from $60,000 to $300,000, depending entirely on the choices you make along the way. That's still meaningfully less than traditional homeownership over the same window, often by 50 to 70%. But that wide range tells you something important. Tiny living can be genuinely affordable, or it can quietly creep towards six figures. And the deciding factor is almost always whether you understood the wheels versus foundation decision before you signed your very first contract. If you've already bought a tiny home on wheels, take a breath. This isn't a doom and gloom situation, and there are real, practical ways to slow the bleeding starting today. Keep the home stationary as much as humanly possible. Every move accelerates, wear, and quietly lowers your future appraisal value, even when the damage isn't visible to you. Stay on top of small maintenance issues immediately. Leaks, seal cracks, exterior wear, before they snowball into big, value-killing problems that scare off buyers during a walkthrough. Keep the design relatively neutral rather than heavily personalized. That bold accent wall or ultra-specific layout that feels perfect for you may actively turn off future buyers who can't picture themselves living in your version of tiny. Document everything. Maintenance records, receipts, certifications, all of it. That paperwork builds buyer confidence fast and gives you real justification for your asking price instead of just hoping someone trusts your word. And if you can, confirm your zoning compliance before you ever list it for sale. Legal placement removes one of the single biggest objections a serious buyer will have, and it can be the difference between a quick sale and months of silence. None of these steps guarantee you a profit. Nothing can promise that in this category, but they meaningfully, measurably reduce how much you lose. And that's worth doing regardless of when you plan to sell. If you're currently shopping for a tiny home, ask yourself honestly, am I buying this as a lifestyle choice? Or am I expecting it to behave like an investment? There's no wrong answer, but there's a wrong assumption. If you want the freedom and flexibility of wheels, go in eyes open, knowing depreciation is part of the deal, the same way you would with a car or an RV. If you're hoping for equity, appreciation, or any kind of long-term financial upside, the math only works on a foundation, on land you own. So, is a tiny home a bad decision? Not at all. Thousands of people live happily, affordably, and intentionally in them every single year. And for a lot of those people, the math genuinely works in their favor. But the mistake was never owning a tiny home in the first place. The mistake is owning one without understanding which category you actually bought into. If you want lifestyle freedom, lower bills, and you're fine treating this more like a long-term vehicle purchase, a home on wheels can absolutely make sense for you. as long as you go in with realistic resale expectations from day one. But if you're hoping for any kind of long-term equity or genuine investment value, the foundation and own land route is the only path that behaves anything close to traditional real estate. The buyers who get burned aren't the ones who made the wrong choice. They're the ones who never even knew there was a choice to make. If this opened your eyes even a little, you genuinely need to see what's coming next. In our next episode of Tiny Home Secrets They Don't Tell, we're going even deeper into exactly why tiny homes lose value faster than you think, the specific factors that accelerate depreciation behind the scenes, which build choices actually protect your money long term, and the resale mistakes that cost sellers thousands more than they ever expected to lose. If today's video surprised you, that one is going to change how you think about buying entirely. Drop a comment letting me know, wheels or foundation, which one would you choose knowing what you know now? Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one.